Hello, my name is Savannah Diatley, and the following information you will hear comes from an article written by Robert Mackey, found on World Book Advanced Online, which is a highly accredited academic search engine, military.com, the History Channel website, a personal interview with my grandfather, a book written by Walter McDermott titled Understanding Combat-Related Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, Rod Powers, who has completed 22 years of military service and is now the author of many articles and books pertaining to military life and politics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry website, and finally, ProQuest.com, which is a highly accredited search engine for academic, corporate, and government research. So, most of us know someone who has made the noble decision to serve in the United States military. Having just graduated high school last year, I know a lot of people whose post-high school plans were to go directly into the military. So when I discovered that my former fellow classmates were in an age group that was twice as likely to breathe their last breath while active than any other age group in the military, it got me thinking. It got me thinking about their parents, friends, and their own future goals and dreams that would miss them. This contemplation led me to a conclusion. Something had to be done to prevent the incredible sadness of losing such a young daughter or a son or friend. From this conclusion, another conclusion can be drawn. Americans of all ages would greatly benefit from raising the minimum legal age of admittance into the military. Adolescents are just too young to make that life decision, and potentially life-ending decision, of joining the military, and they should honestly not be given the option. Therefore, the government should raise the minimum legal age of admittance from 18 to 21. In order to fully understand why the age of admittance into the military is 18, it's important to be familiar with the history of the draft. So, according to Mackey, a draft is a compulsory enrollment and introduction into the military. In September 1940, Congress passed the Burke-Woodsworth Act by an ample margin in both the House and the Senate. The Burke-Woodsworth Act was the first peacetime draft that the United States had ever instated. There were approximately 20 million men from the ages of 21 to 36 that were eligible for this reviewing process. Of these men, 50% were actually rejected in the first year for reasons like illiteracy or some sort of health reason. So by November of 1942, the United States was low on potential recruits, so they had to actually expand the age of men eligible for the draft to 18 to 37. So in today's society, the enlistment of teenagers is completely archaic. There are plenty of people who are 21 and over who are willing and eager to make up America's military forces. According to Davis, the number of soldiers is transitioning from the current figure of 500,000 to just 450,000. This decrease is eliciting a very competitive acceptance rate. Moreover, there is a higher percentage of 21-year-old individuals who are potentially in need of a family wage job than most 18-year-olds. Therefore, raising the minimum age of acceptance would benefit the 21 and older crowd because they would have less of a competition for a position in the military where they could get a family wage job. According to Powers, in the last 5 years alone, 4,683 Americans have died in Iraq and Afghanistan. Of these casualties, 28.2% were soldiers from the ages of 18 to 21. This is a far larger percentage than that of any other age group. This statistic is because a young person simply cannot handle a combat situation as well as a mature adult can. And studies have shown that human brains continue to develop well into early adulthood. Even pictures of functioning brains have demonstrated that an adolescent's brain operates differently when decision-making and problem-solving than adults' brains act. This is because an adult's brain is chiefly guided by the frontal cortex of the brain, which controls things like logic and analysis, while a teenager's actions are guided more by the amygdala region of the brain. The amygdala region is responsible for instinctual reactions like fear and aggressive behavior, things like that. These factors suggest that a teenager in combat is more likely to put themselves and others, I may add, in harm's way. The death or physical injury, however, is not the only damage that can be done to soldiers. Post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, as you probably have heard, is another threat of war that really should be considered. According to McDermott, PTSD may be diagnosed after a person suffers an overwhelming traumatic event, which is very often found in combat veterans. One effect of PTSD is things like flashbacks, intense psychological arousal, difficulty sleeping, anxiety. There's a very long list. In 2008, the RAND Corporation conducted a large-scale epidemiological study on combat veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. Through this study, they were able to actually determine that 1 out of every 5 service members coming back from the Middle East report symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or immense depression. A first-hand account of the physical and mental wearing of combat can actually be seen through my grandfather, Edward Ellis. He is a retired master gunnery sergeant who started his 20-year career in the Marines when he was only 18. Ellis is a veteran of the Vietnam War and was actually on the front lines of Korea within the first year that he joined the military. Ellis admits, and I quote, "I thought I already knew everything when I was 18. However, he concedes that he quickly discovered otherwise. He says that he did not realize that there would be bullets constantly flying overhead. Ellis admits that he was young and never really considered the detrimental physical and mental effects of combat. To this day, during the 4th of July, he can't really participate, or when my dad is shooting out back sort of near the house, and that's too much for him often. The dangers of the front lines were quite shocking to him, and he can say from experience that being in combat at 18 years old was very challenging." He left me with this quote. He said, "In my opinion, an 18-year-old is too young for combat." Some people I know may argue that an 18-year-old should be able to join the military because they are by law an adult and they have the right to make decisions for themselves whether that decision is correct or not. However, even though 18-year-olds are technically adults, they don't really have an adult brain. Thus, they should not be able to make such a life-altering decision that early on in their lives. Biologically, teenagers' brains do lack maturity, and ultimately taking jobs away from people who would better benefit the military through their more high-quality ability to make rational decisions. If the legal age of admittance in the military can be changed to 21, we would see Americans of all ages prosper. To help contribute to my cause, please visit change.org and search my name, Savannah Diatley. There you'll find a petition where I hope you decide to support it and maybe send it to your friends, and together maybe we can make a difference. Thank you.